Welcome to the Conflict Power Podcast. Subscribe to the Conflict Power Podcast and observe the new world. The world is no longer drifting through an age of cooperation. We are now standing in the eye of a geopolitical storm, a ruthless contest between great powers, a struggle that will decide who gets to write the rules of the 21st century. A decade ago, relations between the United States and China were still described with polite phrases like cooperation and competition. The global economy functioned as a strange symbiosis. China served as the world's factory, while America remained the engine of consumption and finance. Back then, Beijing still behaved like an apprentice power, quietly building strength beneath the cloak of global integration and respect for the existing international order. But that mask has shattered. Years of sanctions, technology embargoes, and mounting geopolitical pressure from the South China Sea to the Taiwan Strait have transformed China completely. What was once a cautious challenger seeking recognition from the West has evolved into a hardened strategic rival, willing to endure economic pain and political isolation in pursuit of long-term dominance. This is no longer a story of peaceful rise. It is the transition from dependence to confrontation. We are not merely witnessing a trade war. We are watching the collapse of an old era and the violent birth of a new world order. 2017. Hide your strength, bide your time. When Donald Trump visited the Forbidden City in 2017, welcomed with extraordinary ceremony and spectacle, much of the world still believed compromise between Washington and Beijing remained possible. At that stage, China still viewed itself as a challenger operating within the American-led system, not against it. Beijing did not yet wish to overturn the table. It merely wanted a more powerful seat at it. To Chinese leadership during the early years of Xi Jinping, America represented the gold standard of technological, military, financial and cultural power. The objective was not immediate replacement, but recognition that China had become a legitimate great power with its own sphere of influence across Asia. Yet beneath the diplomatic language sat a brutal reality. America was the reigning power, and China wanted to be acknowledged as an equal. For years, Beijing's strategy depended heavily on stability with Washington. China integrated itself deeply into global supply chains, absorbed Western capital and technology, and relied on economic interdependence as a form of strategic insurance. Chinese policymakers genuinely believed the United States would never risk severing ties because the economic cost would simply be too catastrophic for both sides. But they underestimated one thing: the survival instincts of a superpower. The United States did not merely seek balanced trade. It sought to preserve unquestioned supremacy. When the Trump administration launched the trade war in 2018, it triggered a profound strategic shock inside Beijing. China realized that no matter how carefully a rising power behaves, once it begins approaching the heels of the dominant power, it will inevitably be treated as a threat. And from that moment onwards, China began to change. The Great Transformation. After years of tariffs, restrictions on companies like Huawei, and sweeping bans on advanced AI chips under successive American administrations, Beijing abandoned the illusion of harmonious coexistence. Today's China no longer views America as a model to emulate. In the eyes of many Chinese strategists, Washington has become a declining yet aggressive empire, one determined to contain China's rise by any means necessary. As a result, China has shifted from integration to survival. National resilience now matters more than short-term growth. Beijing is prepared to sacrifice portions of GDP expansion in exchange for strategic independence. The goal is simple: build a system that cannot be strangled by American pressure. This transformation is happening across several fronts. First comes technological self-sufficiency. The semiconductor war changed everything. China now understands that core technologies cannot simply be bought with money or obtained through compromise. Billions are being poured into domestic chip production, AI infrastructure, and industrial self-reliance to create an independent technological ecosystem beyond Western control. Second is geopolitical restructuring. As American and European markets become increasingly restrictive, China has intensified its focus on the Global South, particularly ASEAN, the Middle East, Central Asia and Africa. Through infrastructure, energy and digital investment, Beijing is constructing an alternative economic sphere designed to reduce reliance on Western markets. And third is the shift from property-driven growth to industrial dominance. China no longer wants to merely assemble products for companies like Apple. It wants to dominate the industries that will define the future: electric vehicles, lithium batteries, renewable energy and artificial intelligence. In many ways, China aims to become for clean energy what OPEC once was for oil. A cold multipolar world. The confrontation today extends far beyond tariffs or trade deficits. This is now a systemic struggle between two political models, two economic philosophies, and two visions for how the world should function. America still possesses enormous advantages. The US dollar remains the bloodstream of global finance. Silicon Valley continues to dominate cutting-edge innovation and AI development. American alliances remain unmatched. Yet the United States also faces internal fractures: political polarization, soaring debt, and deep institutional division. China, meanwhile, commands immense industrial power and the ability to mobilize national resources at extraordinary speed. But it too faces serious challenges: demographic decline, a collapsing property sector, and growing pressure on private enterprise under tighter political control. Both nations are effectively betting on the durability of their systems. America believes in the self-correcting power of democracy and free markets. China believes in state-directed capitalism and centralized strategic planning. And the rest of the world is being pulled into the middle. The age of warm globalization before 2018 is gone. The relationship between Washington and Beijing is now defined not by cooperation, but by mutual containment. Technology standards, payment systems, semiconductor supply chains, artificial intelligence ethics, 5G infrastructure, these are the new battlegrounds. Whoever controls the standards may ultimately control the operating system of the future global order. Trade itself is increasingly becoming weaponized. America uses finance and advanced technology as strategic tools. China responds with dominance over rare earths, manufacturing capacity and critical supply chains. This is the emergence of a cold multipolar era, a world where great powers avoid direct military conflict, yet relentlessly weaken one another through economic warfare, technological rivalry and strategic pressure. And this contest is only just beginning. 10 years ago, China wanted recognition from America. Today, China simply wants to become powerful enough that it no longer needs America's recognition at all. That is the true transformation: brutal, cold, and potentially world-changing.